Good evening. We can now finally call a winner in the New York City Mayoral Democratic primary. Randomness LP can now officially project that Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams will move on to the November 2nd general election, defeating Miss Catherine Garcia, who was the former Department of Sanitation Commissioner in the Bill de Blasio administration. With the final votes tabulated, we can project this based on the official numbers from the New York City Board of Elections. Eric Adams won with 50.5% of the vote, 403,333 votes, compared to Miss Catherine Garcia, who got 394,907 votes. This is the official tabulation based on ranked choice voting. At this particular time, we are very confident, along with multiple other sources, including the Associated Press, that have projected Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams to move on to November 2nd election. We can also make this call based on Maya Wiley, who was special counsel to Mayor Bill de Blasio, being eliminated in the 8th round. So Maya Wiley was eliminated. The winner will face the Republican nominee, and that will be Curtis Sliwa. In the official tabulation, Curtis Sliwa won with 40,751 votes, 68.1% of the vote. The leader of the Guardian Angels, once again, will be facing the Brooklyn Borough President in the general election. Bodega Advocate Fernando Mateo got 16,545 votes with 27.7%. There was a late movement to add a third candidate in the mix, and that was former NYPD officer Bill Pepitone, who Bill Pepitone will move on to the general election. So this is going to be a three-person race. Bill Pepitone is the Conservative Party nominee. So meaning in the general election, we will have three candidates: the Democrat, Eric Adams; the Republican, Curtis Sliwa; and the Conservative, Bill Pepitone. To go into all boroughs where the mayoral candidates reside, Mr. Adams lives in Brooklyn, Mr. Sliwa lives in Manhattan, and Mr. Pepitone lives in Staten Island. All three men will have a very contested mayoral race coming up on November 2nd. By the way, just to go into the Conservative Party nominee, in District 19, which is parts of Bayside, College Point, and Whitestone, John Alexander Salakos moved on with 107 votes. Dawn Anatra won with 10 votes. We are now going to move on to some other important races. First up, in the race for controller, we can project the winner in the controller race for Democratic controller's race will be, we're just confirming the results right here. We do apologize. The computer does have a problem, obviously. We can project that Councilman Brad Lander will move on to the general election in November. So again, we can project that he will move on, and he will face the Republican nominee, John Tabacco. So we know that race for controller is set. Moving on to the race for District Attorney in Manhattan. We want to confirm these results right now. Currently, right now, we don't really have the results from the Board of Elections website. But we can project that Alvin Bragg will move on to become the next top prosecutor in Manhattan. This was a very important seat because Cy Vance decided not to run for another term. He defeated Tahila Weinstein, so we don't know if there will be a Republican in that election. Now we will move on to the race for Borough President and the tightly contested Borough President's race in Staten Island. We can project that Beto Basawa has moved on narrowly to defeat Stephen Mateo. So Beto Basawa will be the Republican in that race. A very contested race, by the way. To clarify the results in the Queens Borough President's race, we're going to move on to that right now in Queens. We can officially project at this time that Donovan Richards, the incumbent, has defeated Elizabeth Crawley. So Donovan Richards will move on to the general election at this particular moment. There are still some ballots that need to be counted, but if all goes well, Donovan Richards will move on to the general election. Now, we received word from the Board of Elections last week that the race for Borough President will now be 3 candidates. It was just announced that Daniel Mayoral has won the Conservative Party nomination for Queens. Thomas Smake will be the Republican nominee in November. So now we will have 3 candidates in the general election in November. It was decided by a technicality last minute by the Board of Elections. Now we will move on to crucial city council races. First up, let's take a look at Republican District number 50 in Staten Island. At this moment, we can project that David Carr will move on. Remember, this was a very critical race because 5 candidates were in this district in Staten Island. Thus, this meant that ranked choice mattered. So just to be very, very clear about that, I wanted to make sure that this race was discussed. So now we're going to move on to a couple other city council races. First up, my district, number 24. We know that James Gennaro moved on. And we know that in this district, the Republican will be Tim Rosen. Just to quickly recap that. We want to move on to a couple of the Democrat races, but before we do that, we just want to confirm that again, Vicky Palladino won the 19th. So we're going to get that out of the way. So now we have to move on to very crucial races for Democrats. First up in the 23rd District. I'm only focusing on Queens since, again, I'm not going to go nick by nick, obviously. But we can project in City Council District 23, the centrist candidate, Linda Lee, will move on to the general election. She defeated the socialist candidate, Jaslyn Kerr. So it was a neck-and-neck race, but in the end, the centrist candidate, Linda Lee, who was favored more by the centrist Democrats, will move on. Now we're going to take a look at District 22. We want to make sure that Tiffany Caban will be facing Chaslyn Kerr. And it sounds like Tiffany Caban will be facing Chaslyn Kerr. My bad. Excuse me for a second. We want to confirm the Felicia Kalan. Excuse me. Right. So Tiffany Caban will be facing Felicia Kalan. It rhymes, but sorry about that, folks. I do apologize. So let's take a look at Queens. Let's take a look and see if anything was specific. Okay, nothing really here. So, yes, so that's pretty much it. That wraps up my coverage. So, we'll end it here. But now we get a clearer picture of what November is going to look like. We know that Curtis Lewa and Eric Adams and Bill Pepitone all have a very big race coming up in November. And it could go one way or the other with Lewa and Adams. As far as Pepitone is concerned, he's going to really have to put more name recognition out there. Since he is a third-party candidate, there was one successful bid in 2017 that almost did happen, and that was the dump the mayor line by private investigator Bo Dietl. So, there's a slim possibility this could end up being a three-person race. And I would encourage Mr. Pepitone, hopefully he can get some funds from the City Campaign Finance Board to qualify for him to be in the two debates in October with Curtis Lewa and Eric Adams. That would be fair to the voters of New York City. It will show that we do have a third-party candidate in this race, and it would help Bill Pepitone's case. I expect all three men to be very aggressive on the campaign trail, and we will see that as time goes by. So with that, thank you all for watching, and until the next one, please take care.